your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of And I Quote, the live weekly show where we bring in a special guest, ask them a few questions, find out what projects they have coming down the line. I am your host, Ryan of Neuroculture, and joining us in the studio this week is sci-fi author and maybe a bit of a Star Trek fan extraordinaire known as Rose. Marie Rose is in the studio. Rose, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us. Now, if you have any questions for our guest, Marie Rose, during the course of this show, you can drop them in the live chat, drop them in the comments section. Our producers are going to be monitoring that as we go throughout the course of today's show, and we'll save some time for those at the end. So to kick things off here, Rose, what were some of your favorite books and writers growing up?
One of my favorite writers is Shirley Jackson, who wrote The Haunting of Hill House, which is my favorite book. I also enjoyed Amy Tan, The Joylet Club. I have a very eclectic taste in books. Also, Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Ray Bradbury, and a bunch of different other authors, but Shirley Jackson definitely. And I got a lot of inspiration from her while writing my book.
Oh, well, that is simply quite extraordinary. Now, when did you yourself decide to become a writer?
In 5th grade, I had this amazing teacher by the name of Wendy Waterman, and she encouraged everybody to read and to do creative writing. And I started writing like murder mysteries, loosely based on Clue, the game Clue, but then I started writing like more like horror, dark stuff. But I wrote this murder mystery once, and it was just for my friends, and I gave it to my friend to read. And instead of him reading it, he took it up to the teacher and gave it to her. Now I was like really scared because I'm in 5th grade, and I wrote like, at the time I thought it was like really adulty themed stuff, and there was like curse words in there, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble because I was in a private Christian school. But anyway, she read it, and she had nothing but nice things to say. And then towards the end of the year, she gave all the kids in class a gift because she was leaving our class. She was going to start teaching 1st grade, and what she gave me was a blank book. And inside the blank book, she wrote, I know you're going to be a famous author someday. And I've had that blank book for a very long time. Actually, I filled it up with Fraggle Rock fan fiction from the 6th grade, but we didn't call it fan fiction back then. I was a huge fan of Fraggle Rock. So I was writing all these like Fraggle Rock stories in this book, and it's all in pencil, and it's all not formatted properly, but the book got filled with stories. But I kept the book, and I still have it, and it's still with me. And I actually dedicated my novel, my first novel, to her for inspiring me. And I had another teacher in the 8th grade by the name of Amanda Lucas, and she was another one who inspired people. And she also was a big fan of Shirley Jackson. And we read Haunting a Hill House in class, and we did a book called The Lottery. It was a short story of Shirley Jackson's, very dark, about you don't know what's going on with have you ever read The Lottery?
Unfortunately, no, I have not.
No, the Lottery is a short story that a lot of teachers still do this in class. They'll mm-hmm. have you read The Lottery and act it out, and everybody will get a number, and you don't know what's going on until like the end. And the people who get the numbers, they're the ones that get stoned to death. That's the twist. Oh, and so it was like a town tradition where they like stone people to death every year, but only if you had like the mark. It was really dark. But anyway, both those teachers, Amanda Lucas in the 8th grade, she had me work on yearbook for the first time and doing other kinds of writing. So they were both very inspirational to me, and until I finally got around to writing my book many years later.
Wow, we went from family-friendly Fraggle Rock fan fiction to people getting stoned when you pick a certain number out of a lottery. Gee willikers, what does the world come to?
and that is me, Ryan. I am a little bit Fraggle Rock, a little bit stoning people to death type of person. I'm all different things, you know. I've got a little dark side.
Boy, I should have put on a pot of coffee. We got a lot of discussion to do after this show. But I will say, your brothers and I might get along because they grew up watching the Fraggle Rock property as well. So there's a little bit of a dynamic there. That's interesting, though. But my goodness, stoning people on lottery numbers. Okay, so aside from that, and that's wonderful stories. Don't get me wrong. What would you say have been some of the biggest rewards of being a writer?
The biggest rewards of being a writer is feedback from other people who've read my book. That is the biggest reward. Being an independent author, you don't make a lot of money. Okay. And in fact, I've lost money on that book, from the time and a lot of stuff that I put into it financially. I've never gotten that money back. But when I get an email out of the blue from someone, that said that they picked up my book at one of the shows, or, a friend of mine who's finally read it after owning it for a year or so and finally got to pick it up and read it, and writes me about it, is very genuine. Actually, one of the best things that has happened was that my 8th grade teacher, Amanda Lucas, recently, about 2 months ago, downloaded a copy of the book on Kindle and then contacted me. And we had kept in touch over the years, but we hadn't talked in maybe, I would say, 5-6 years. And she told me that, you know, she was really, it really meant a lot to her that she was living through me vicariously as an author. And it was just like one of the sweetest, most wonderful moments we've had. I called her and we talked for like an hour afterwards. And that's the kind of stuff that makes writing and being creative worth it, when you able to make a connection and have somebody reach out to you about a book, about something you wrote that you created,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that answer. Now, on the other side of the coin here, and you kind of alluded to a few of these just a few moments ago, what have been some of the challenges of being a writer?
Marketing is a big challenge. It's very hard to get your name out there, get the book out there. And I spent early on, I spent a lot of money with these different groups trying to get, it went on Twitter and even on Amazon. When I did free book deals, I did really well because the book was free. I was not making any money. People would scarf up the book and I'd start becoming like in the top 25 of my genre. But but it didn't really work. I never gained a lot of momentum. The majority of my book sales were from people from my class, the class of '89, South Dade. You guys were so super supportive of me, and I will always remember that. So early on, there was a big push. I sold a lot of books early on, but it was people I knew and word of mouth from friends of mine. And that was great. But then everything kind of died off, and it's been pretty much steadily dead unless I do a free book deal. So so I haven't really made a lot of money on it, and I
I believe you froze there for a moment. Oh, seem to be having a little bit of technical difficulties here, guys. Oh, seem to have froze there, Rose. Oh boy. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try to figure this out. Rose, you still there? You're frozen for the moment. Let me see here. Let me see. Still frozen there. Sorry, ladies and she had to. Okay, it seems Rosemary Rose is having some technical issues, so hopefully we're going to get those sorted out, and she will pop right back in. But if you do have any questions for her, feel free to leave them in the live chat, leave them in the comment section. We'll get to those at the end of the show. We are talking with sci-fi author Rosemary Rose. She is having a bit of technical difficulties. Hopefully she can jump right back in, and we'll get things rolling here. We do apologize, but thank you for bearing with us as we go through this. See a few people are chiming in here. I see Brian, Willow are in the chat. Thank you so much for being with us. We do appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. Let's see here. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Going to try to sort this out as best we can. Let's see. Let me see here. Yep. Here we go. Hopefully we'll get that sorted out. Right. Once again, we are sorry for this, ladies and gentlemen. We are trying to figure out the technical difficulties. Apparently, Rose's screen came to a screeching halt. It froze, but hopefully she can jump back in here in just a moment or two. Do appreciate you guys sticking with us. Sometimes these things happen. Sometimes we have certain elements that are out of our control. So if anyone has any questions for Rosemary Rose, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to get to them a little bit later on. But I hope all of you are doing well out there. I hope you're enjoying the nice sunny weather, if it is that type of weather where you are in your neck of the woods. Hope everyone is staying safe and keeping themselves busy, because there's great pieces of entertainment out there, whether it be through a streaming service, plenty of books, as we are talking about right now with author Rosemary Rose, and many other things as well. So if anyone's been reading anything special or binge watching anything, any Netflix series or movies, let us know. Let us know in the comments, in the live chat. We'd love to hear from you guys. Really appreciate it. So I'm trying to think here. Next week, I know that, and like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we are awaiting the return of our guest for this week, Rosemary Rose. Hopefully she will jump back in here in a few moments. Who here is excited for the movie next week that's going to be dropping on streaming and in theaters, by the way? Godzilla vs. Kong. Are we excited about that? I hope you are, because Lord knows that I am. Lord knows that I am. I'm very, very excited for that movie. Cannot wait to see it. Cannot wait to see it. Anyone got any bets on that? Anyone, honestly, who do you think is going to win, Godzilla or Kong? Let me know. Let me know in the live chat. Let's see here. I'm gonna. Let's see. Oh, there's okay. And she's back. There she is.
Oh, Brian, I so apologize. I have Comcast, and it is terrible. I am so sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. Some things are out of our control. Sometimes these things happen. It's okay. It's no big deal. I was just letting the audience know that if they have any questions for you, they can just drop them in the live chat. And I was just talking about random stuff, like a new movie that's coming out next week known as Godzilla vs. Kong. And who do we think's going to win the mega battle between the two biggest behemoths in cinematic history?
Kong.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm thinking the same thing too, because that guy can jump. He's got more agility than Godzilla does. Godzilla's a little heavy in the stomach region, so it makes him a little bit slower to move. And if you see the trailers, he doesn't move very fast unless he's underwater. So
yeah, my husband is a huge Kong fan, so and Godzilla, and so it's going to be an epic weekend at our house. So
yeah, and that'll be next week when that film arrives in theaters and on streaming services. On March the 31st. But anyhow, as we were diving back right into this thing before an unfortunate incident with known as technical difficulties, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, they do tend to happen. So the question was, what have been some of the biggest challenges of being a writer? And you were talking about marketing and how much money it takes to put into the marketing. You may have lost some money along the way. And anything else you want to add to the challenges of becoming a writer?
Actually, yeah, I'm going to add something else too. I put my book into one of these local. It was a local store that did independent authors only, and everything was going okay. And then the bookstore closed. I never got my money. My books, 6 of them, are gone. I don't know where they are.
Goodness gracious. Well, that's certainly not fair, and that's very unfortunate that that incident occurred.
Yeah, it was everything's been a learning curve, Ryan, and you know, I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had with the book, but I mean, those are some of the downsides that have happened to me. The marketing, sales, not great, but you know, that's not why I got into it in the first place. So
Well, yeah, I can understand that. Fair enough. Now, any special memories from being at conventions or other events for your book or outside of your book?
I loved when I did my first when I did my book launch. We did it at a comic book store in town called Comics, Cards, and Stuff. I'd known the gentleman who runs it, Brian Chandler, and he'd been following me along as because I would always put something on Facebook about my book, and it was like 3 years going, and every time I go in the store, he'd ask me how it was going. So when the book was done, I said, you know what, I'd like to do my book launch at your store. And he said, you know what, I think that would be a perfect match. And that was just a wonderful day. A lot of people from my office where I work came in. People that I know around town came in. That was a beautiful day. It was a great moment, even though I was sick as a dog. I woke up that morning with the worst cold I'd ever had.
Oh my!
But it all worked out. And I've done some shows around town. I did Southwest Florida UFO and Paranormal Conference, which actually we're doing a virtual version of that today, which I'm helping to co-host this afternoon. I'm so excited about it. I did that one. I did we do a SteamCon thing for it that also showcases authors, and I was at that show. I even did Spooky Empire in Orlando once, but that was one I really wanted to do it. I didn't make any money. I lost money, but I had a great time at the show. So that's the one where Elvira was at, where they had the big Funko gate. So I was there selling my book when that happened.
Oh my goodness gracious! Goodness gracious! Funko Gate. Just when you thought you've heard everything in this world, but but yes, I got you now. What advice would you have for aspiring writers out there?
It's never too late, and don't give up on yourself. I've wanted to publish a book for years, and I never could because there was always something in the way. I started a family. I had different jobs that were that took up a lot of my time, still does. But when I was really passionate about writing this book, and it took me 3 years to write it in between working and with 2 kids in school. And if you really want it done, you can do it. And because people are like, well, I've always wanted to write, but I can't. Yes, you can. You just got to really commit to it. It is a real commitment. If people who are like, even think people who might be retired or not. Writing is a commitment. It's like an everyday kind of thing. You've got to put the stuff on paper, and if it's junk, you just go back and fix it later. And that's basically what I have to say to writers is if you want to write, do it. And you have to commit to it.
All right. Thank you very much for that answer. You hear that, friends? There you go. Some good pieces of advice out there. Now, what would you say who are some of your favorite writers nowadays? Some of the newer, more modern day writers. Who are some of your favorites?
Well, I've been doing a lot of reading of independent authors like William Hatfield. He writes a great Key West murder series, LGBTQ stuff. Really great, really good. I just bought his new book, and I think it's the Emperor's Blade. I haven't started it yet, but I bought that when I recently, when I was in Bartow. I got to see him after not getting to see him for a few years. I don't really read a lot now because I just don't have the time. I like to read some of my friends' work. I have friends who are authors, and I'll read their stuff first over anybody else. So basically, there's just a lot of great independent authors out there, and you just really need to, I think people need to really start to look at more of that, because their ideas are a lot fresher than what you get on the bookshelves because when you go to the store, if you go to the bookstore, a lot of these authors, they have like ghostwriters that write for them. And it'll be, you see James Patterson, but really underneath it says so-and-so. And James Patterson might have like the broad idea, but he just gives it to somebody and they write the book. I don't know if you knew that. I found that out by doing research when I was starting to, getting ready to publish my book, is how I found that out, that a lot of these authors have ghostwriters that write for them.
My goodness gracious. No, I was not really aware of that, but that's fascinating to know. And thank you for sharing that with us. We do appreciate it. Now, outside of the wonderful magical world of writing, do you have any other hobbies?
I have tons of hobbies. Too many. I am a huge collector of
really? I
Funko
couldn't tell
Pop.
by all the pictures we see on social media.
Yeah, Funko Pops. I collect. For a long time, we were collecting autograph cards, non-sports cards, like shows that we like, Star Trek, Fringe. A lot of the sci-fi shows that my husband and I love to watch together, we would used to buy cards and open them up just to have the thrill of seeing, what autographs we got. And we ended up getting a few good ones. I had my son actually pulled a Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory at one point. I sold it. I sold it right before the show ended because I figured that that's when the value would be really high. But but some of them I've kept. Some of them are like really sentimental to me. So, and they'll never be for sale. My Firefly ones, and Jewel State, and Battlestar Galactica. Those I'm never getting rid of either. And Lost. I was a huge fan of Lost, and I collected a lot of autographs and cards from that too. So yeah, but we've kind of trimmed down on doing that because for one thing, there's not a lot of shows that we both like to watch together anymore. And the way that the cards are these days, it's very hard to pull really good picks. Back 10 years ago, it was a lot easier. Now it's, you get a box of Discovery cards, Star Trek Discovery, and you'll get like, some crewman from one episode in the hallway. And, and when you're spending $80 a pop and that card's worth $5, it's not worth it. So we've kind of like cut back on our collecting of cards. But I'm doing the pops. I really have fun doing that. And I'm also a big lottery person. So that's another hobby of mine, my secret hobby.
Oh, okay. I got you. Now, just out of curiosity, how many Funko Pops do you have in your collection? Do you have a count?
We were actually talking about doing an inventory of them. Right now, I would say I have at least 200.
Woo!
Most of them are Dragon Ball Z because my daughter got me into that show, and there's just so many pops, and every time I'm like, oh, I want that one. And then we had a whole full case full, and now they're outside the case, and it's just mushroomed into a huge collection.
Well, I think it's fair to say from all of us here at Nerd Culture that your nerd cred just went up above 9,000. So there's that to consider. So yeah, 200 Funko Pops. Gee willikers. Now, when it comes to Star Trek, just out of curiosity, favorite character and favorite series?
Oh, that changes. My favorite series today would be probably Deep Space Nine. It hovers between Deep Space Nine and TNG. I won't lie. They both have a lot to bring to the table. They're both very different shows. I love them both. So my favorite captain, you know what? I'm going out there and saying Cisco. I mean, it's easy to say Kirk or Picard, and I'm going with Cisco because he was different. He's a little bit on the dark side.
Gotcha.
Doesn't always play by the rules,
No. That's understandable. I got you. And I'm looking forward to binge watching those series because I just became a Star Trek fan myself after watching the movies, 1 through 10 of the original, the Kirk movies and the Picard films. So now I'm looking forward to diving into the series to see where a lot of these characters came from. So don't worry, guys. I know I have a lot of homework to do, and it's going to take me about 5,000 years. But yeah, I'll be there. They test.
I'm a huge TNG fan, and don't get me wrong. I mean, my heart is there a lot of the time. I got to meet the entire cast once when they were in Orlando.
So jealous right now.
I had a dear friend who passed away, and she left me some money, and she told me, don't spend it on anything practical. Just do something you want to do. So that year when they came, I did the full boat, and it was like $4,000 and one of the best weekends of my life.
It's a lot of change, brother. I mean, sister, that's a lot of change.
And you know what? It was a once in a lifetime deal too, because that'll probably never happen again. So, I had the money, I had the opportunity, and I took it.
My goodness gracious! You saw something, you had a goal that you wanted to accomplish. You looked at it on screen, and you looked at it and you said, "Make it so." So I respect that. I really, really do. But $4,000, man, that's some serious change. But if you have the money, go. I had it.
Yeah. It was all cash, so I didn't have to worry about owing the credit card company on that one. But it was really
cash.
It was a really amazing weekend, and it's sort of like the time we did Star Wars Celebration once, and I probably would never do it again. But the event itself, that one time, was really great. But I don't think I would do another Star Wars Celebration again. That was epic, and it was like a one-time thing.
Fair enough. Goodness gracious, man, you've got some incredible journeys. But I will say, favorite season and favorite character from the TV series known as Lost.
Favorite season would be the first season.
Oh, where it all started. Okay.
And probably my favorite character would probably be Locke. But I don't like what they did to him at the end. I liked him in the beginning. I really didn't. And Benjamin Linus is another one. Okay.
Boy, he was a great antagonist. I wanted to punch him in that fish-eyed face so many times.
Oh yeah, he was great. And that, I liked what they did with those characters, because they really made them character pieces. I wasn't so fond of the last season. But I would have done it a little bit differently. I used to write Lost short fiction. Yeah, I did a lot of fan fiction for that show, and I had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and there was a Lost wiki that a lot of my stories were on. You can't find them now, unfortunately. I had my books somewhere, but I don't have them on disc, and I really regret that. I don't have them saved anywhere except for where my book. I have like a binder called the Lost Stories, and but you cannot find them online anymore. I actually took like a day and tried to find them and couldn't find them. So
I am sorry.
There was so many there was just so much to do with that cast, and so many fun little character pieces you could do with those characters, and it was a great show. That I think the problem with Lost and with Once Upon a Time, which I was a huge fan of also, is that it starts out really strong, and then the writers kind of just don't know what they're doing with it. And I think with Lost, they didn't know what to do with it after a while, and I think they made a lot of missteps. And the same with Once Upon a Time too. But both of those shows were the same creators, so mostly. So, but I love them both. But they just didn't end as well as I'd like them to.
Yeah, going back to Lost for my favorite character, even though these were two characters that were connected to each other because they loved each other, lovey-dovey so much. I would say my favorite season would be season 4, and then I also really like Desmond. Desmond
is so great.
Let me tell you something. Desmond and Penny, I've been rooting for them to get back together for the very beginning. And as soon as I had that phone call on the boat during the course of season 4, sorry for revealing certain spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it, but it is kind of an old show. But just saying, that scene on the boat when he's talking to Penny through the different timelines and the zones, because he was the constant, whatever it was. I think that was the name of the episode.
Yes, that was a great episode.
That brought me to tears so much. I'm thinking, I want these two to be together. Like, just put them back together again. I'll see you in another life, brother. I mean, he's such a Henry Ian Cusick, and I can't remember the female actress's name who played Penny, but they were both so perfectly cast and so perfectly acted.
Yeah, that you know what, season 4 is an amazing season. I agree with you on that, and they had some really cool stuff. And I actually, the Desmond character, there was a story I wrote about Desmond and Michael. and they were flipping through time, and every time Michael Michael would be like, there was a line that he would say, and now I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was just like this funny little thing where Desmond ended up singing a song doing karaoke. It was funny. I love those characters. It's just a great series. It's some very good writing.
Man, my goodness gracious. Well, always nice to meet fellow fans of certain TV series or certain TV properties. Now, it is unfortunate some of your stories through lost fan fiction got lost in the interwebs of space. And also, it's unfortunate that some of these shows, you were saying earlier, they start strong, but sometimes the creators, writers, and producers don't know exactly how to stick the landing at the very end. But lessons have been learned. Certain things may or may not change in the next few years. Who knows? And also, it's not a competition between who has more Funko Pops than the next person. I only have between you and me, because I know the viewers aren't going to listen to this. I only have like 29. So I know my numbers are weak, man. I got to pump those numbers up in this racket. But anyway, it's not a competition. All right, it's just about having fun. I know Brian Wenslaw from Reels and Heels would think differently. But anyway. So here's your next one here, Rose. And by the way, if anyone has questions for Rose, we're going to save some time for those at the end of the show. So feel free to drop any in the live chat or the comments section. Our producers are going to be keeping an eye on that as we roll through this. So Rose, here's one for you. What will people look back at us 50 years from now and be shocked and appalled by?
You mean as a society?
Could be anything. Could be anything in the collector's realm. Could be anything in society in general. Could be anything.
I'm going to say that people are going to look back on this pandemic situation and be appalled at the way people behaved during it, especially in the beginning with all that hoarding and just being absolutely ridiculous. I've seen some of this stuff on the web, these people behaving so horribly towards other people. And everybody's struggling, and especially last year, everybody was really struggling at this time. And if people had just been a little bit kinder to each other and a little bit more thoughtful, and I think that when people look back and they see how people treated one another, that's going to be, people are going to be like, what was your problem? Hopefully 50 years from now, people will come a long way from where we're at, because right now we're not really good in society. I think they were not kind enough to each other.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Thank you once again for your answer. What's one bad habit you're trying to get rid of?
Spending money on lottery. I get very competitive with myself and looking for big wins, and sometimes I don't know when to stop, and that is something I'm trying to curb. I've won some good money, and then I try to chase more, and then you have good days and bad days.
Trying to ease off buying the one too many scratch off tickets.
Yes. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. I remember when I was a kid, we always used to go to this one restaurant. You would always see the monitor where they were playing games known as Keno.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, people picking numbers. And then you see on another monitor, it was VR versions of horse racing. And you picked like which horse you thought was going to win. It was on a monitor. It was similar to Keno. It was a little bit like you pick which number or which jockey, whichever one. I'm not really sure. That's a whole other ball game.
I played Hoyle Casino, and so they had similar stuff like that on that when I used to when I had time to play games, which I don't really get to play anymore, and I kind of regret not having that empty time, but I'm just so busy. So, but yeah, so I know what Keno is, and actually here in town there's a casino about maybe 30 minutes from here. I haven't ever been, but they just introduced digital virtual craps. So I guess so people don't have to touch the dice.
Okay, I mean that's one way to get around it.
That's kind of like the point. You're kind of like missing the point.
Yeah, it's kind of like one way to get around it because you're trying to be safe during the course of pandemics, but at the same time, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it because you're at the table, you're on a roll, let's just roll the dice. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen things like that on TV, maybe in movies. I don't know. I'm just saying. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. What are you currently curious about?
What am I curious about?
Could be anything.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. I'm curious about the whole thing with the new alien information coming out. And every now and then you're hearing things about maybe there's more, maybe all these stories about Roswell and Area 51. There's a bit of truth to it, and I've had people say that maybe within the next 2 years they're going to say that they've made first contact with alien life. So that's something I'm curious about.
First contact with a new alien race. Well, for our sake, I hope it's the, oh my goodness, what was I thinking of just a moment ago? Oh, I hope it's the Vulcans.
I think the Vulcans wouldn't want to have anything to do with us right now.
Probably not, but a young man like myself can dream, can he? I mean, I just saw my favorite Star Trek movie at this present time is Star Trek First Contact, so.
That's a great film.
Darn right it is. Darn right it is. So much so, and this hasn't been revealed to the public yet, but it is going to be revealed on our social media. Don't worry, we'll make sure we share it on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I do have a 27 by 40 sized, full-size theatrical poster of Star Trek First Contact that I just got framed.
Very nice.
So once I'm able to put it up on my wall and I get everything sorted out with that, I'm going to take a nice, beautiful picture of it, and I'm going to post it for all the world to see and to say, hey guys, I'm not just a fan of the wars, I'm a fan of the Trek now, so I'm in. Sign me up. I want to join Starfleet Academy, just saying.
There's room for both. I don't know why those fandoms fight the way they do, because I was originally a Star Wars fan. And when I saw Star Trek when I was a kid, I really didn't get it. And, that's something I think that when you're older, you have a lot more respect for Star Trek. So, but yeah, I'm a fan of both, and I've been a fan of both for many, many years. So there's room out there for both fandoms. Two totally different genres, really. One's more space fantasy, So
that's very true, and I could not agree more. I may not have understood it when I was growing up, and this is the funny thing. I volunteer at a convention called Shore Leave every summer.
Oh, cool!
And I didn't understand. I didn't completely understand. I mean, people said, "Oh, surely it's a Star Trek term." I'm like, I haven't seen Star Trek yet, so I can't comment or speculate. Hello, I grew up on the wars, not the Trek, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But now that I've seen these movies and I have a bit of an inkling of some of these terminologies and some of these characters and whatnot, I may not have the full grasp of it yet, because, like I said, I'm still learning. But now that I know this stuff, I can go to conventions and be like, okay, I can talk to you now. So if I see Star Trek actors walking around, I can't just say, hi, how you doing? I'm like, I really liked you in this movie. You were fantastic. Depending on which person you run into and what property they're from and all that kind of stuff. But that's the beauty of conventions. You never know who you're going to run into.
So who's your favorite Star Trek character then?
Well, since my favorite Star Trek film was First Contact, I got to go with Picard.
Okay.
Because Picard is Patrick Stewart. And to me, I grew up watching Patrick Stewart through the X-Men films before I went back and watched him as Picard.
That's interesting.
So that's my experience with those actors. And also, I grew up in a little animated series known as Gargoyles, which you had Riker, you had Troy, you had a whole bunch of other Star Trek alumni as voice actors within that series. So I'm thinking, oh, Riker was Xanatos. Boy, he was conniving, what. But, and he's a good guy in one piece of media, and then he's a bad guy in another form. I'm thinking, great versatility.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, my favorite's Picard, hands down. If I'm going to do anything in my life now, I got to be Patrick Stewart before I croak. Just say I love you.
Oh, you've got to. You've got to go meet Patrick Stewart.
Seriously. I mean, I want him to either reenact it or I can just do it for myself. I'm sure, they say imitation is the highest form of flattery. So I would go up to him and say, can you please just sign this 8x10 or this Blu-ray of the film set that I have here, right here? The line must be drawn here. This no further. And I will make them pay for what they've done. I mean, that whole spiel that he gives to Alfred Woodard in the chamber there is so good. It's so good. I'm sorry, I can just talk about First Contact all day long. But anyway, that's not why we're here. So, Rose, I got to ask you, any upcoming projects you can tell us about?
I am working on a story about, it's an island story about a monster on the island, and it's going to be more of a mystery. Well, my other book was kind of a mystery too, but it's also going to be in the mystery realm. But I like to put in a little bit of, science fiction type of stuff into it. So I've been working on that for over a year now. I haven't gotten very far in it. because that commitment hasn't been there. It's unfortunately had to be other places in my family issues that I was dealing with, especially last spring. But I'm hoping to get that done. There's another story I have an idea for. Plus, everybody wants to know when the sequel to my book will come out. I don't know when, but it's in here. It just needs to get on paper. So, as you know, I do a podcast a video cast called Saturday Morning Cartoons almost every Saturday at 9:00. Next Friday, we're going to start a new show. And I don't think it's going to be every Friday, but it's going to be about classic television. So, and I don't know what time we're going to do it started. It's probably going to be 8:00, but more details will come forth as Mark B. Lee tells us, where we need to be and what we're doing. So, but that's coming up too.
All right. Lots of interesting things coming down the line. Thank you very much for being with us. Rosemary Rose, sci-fi author extraordinaire. Where can everyone find you on social media and everything you have coming up?
You can find my website for my book and for the articles that I put on there is www.warpedinfluences.com. My book can be found on Amazon. And on if you go to eBay, you can get signed copies. Picard 328, I'm the seller. That's my handle, Picard 328. You can find me on Facebook at Arthur R.M. Rose, and I'm also on Twitter at R.M. Rose.
Thank you very much, Stu. Appreciate it. You can find me. My name is Ryan of Neuroculture. Thank you so much for joining us for this great episode of And I Quote. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at It's Neuroculture. New videos are being dropped on our YouTube channel each and every week, so make sure you click that notification bell so you can be notified when new videos go up on our respective channels. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. In the meantime, to everyone out there, and also I want to remind you that this episode and every episode of And I Quote, and you were probably wondering, where are some of those questions about? Well, what are you curious about? If we're going to be remembered for something in 50 years, what would it be? Well, this episode is powered by Pod Decks. Pod Decks are unique interview questions. Episode starting prompts in the palm of your hand. So whether you're a new podcaster or existing broadcaster, veteran podcaster looking to grow your audience, get more engagement, get things rolling, you're going to want to check out poddecks.com. Use the promo code Neuroculture to get 10% off your order. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you check that out. But in the meantime, to everyone out there, stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe, and live long and prosper and read some books. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Take care.